left out by the legislation the Liberals passed in 1987. The loopholes existed in workplaces where there was no way to compare the salaries paid to women to those paid to men. The problem often came up in areas such as childcare, where all the workers were women, and so there were no men to compare salaries with. Now the government has come up with two new ways to make the comparisons. In private industry, a complicated formula that calculates the value of work will be used. And in public sector jobs, where governments pay the wages, the comparisons could also be made, if necessary, between different departments. The legislation will come in the spring. The government says the changes will take effect in a year.
This indicates the government has been fairly responsive. It's a lot more than the Liberals committed themselves to. And so for that, we're very pleased.
Hospitals have already said they can't afford the original pay equity increases. The government now says it recognizes that some public sector employers will need more money. Just who will get how much will be announced in the new year. Linda Matthews is head of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. She says businesses are going to have trouble paying for the expanded pay equity programs, and they aren't getting any help.
When you're looking at the number of bankruptcies in the current recession, that's going to be a very difficult task to add to the cost burden and the competitive position of the businesses in Ontario.
Still about 230,000 women in Ontario who are not covered by the pay equity legislation, even this new legislation. Many of those are in places where there are only less than 10 employees, small businesses. The government plans to move ahead, plans to consult with businesses in the new year. And a final note on this, $500,000 is being given to set up a sort of special legal clinic so that women who aren't covered, or are covered rather, can find out how to get their paperwork through the system and have their salaries adjusted according to the pay equity legislation. Now, there are more developments here at Queen's Park here tonight. In other news on the constitutional front, my colleague here, Lynn Whittam, joins us with that.
Thanks, Havard. There are reports today that Premier Ray will strike a constitutional committee to tour the province and look at issues of national unity. But Premier Ray says there will be more on the agenda than just constitution. It's expected tomorrow Premier Ray will announce an all-party committee will tour the province in the next month. And it will listen to what the people of Ontario have to say.
Basically, it's about Canada. It's about the kind of country we have, the kind of institutions that we have that need to bind the country together. That's really what this debate, national debate, needs to be all about.
Ray says the last constitutional talks were a mistake. The First Ministers' Conference in Ottawa was the last-ditch effort to save the Meech Lake Accord. Ray said the talks were too secretive and elitist.
What has happened over the last 2 or 3 days, I think, has demonstrated how dreadful this process is.
This time, Ray says he wants his constitutional talks to be about what Canadians have in common, talks about the economy and national institutions.
But
it seems Quebec is rejecting all that we share and isn't interested in it. How are you going to convince them to stay part of that?
Oh, persistence. This discussion is going to take some time, and I think the people of Ontario have views to express as well.
The opposition is staying mum on this so far. They're expected to say something tomorrow when the announcement is made, and it's expected they will, at least on the surface, say they approve of what the government is doing. But off camera, behind the scenes, they're saying they're a little disappointed. The government is setting up another constitutional committee. This will be the 7th governmental constitution committee in the country. Back to you.
Thank you, Lynn and Havard. Still ahead on CBC at 6, more saber rattling in the Gulf.
I'm not only confident, I am extremely confident.
Egypt moves another armored division to Saudi Arabia as diplomatic efforts bog down. The Blue Box program in Metro Toronto has been a victim of its own success. So many people are taking part and so much is being collected that it has overwhelmed parts of the system. A major problem has been sorting. Metro has one solution, but that plan is now in trouble too. Hamlin Grange is standing by with that story. Hamlin.
Well, Hillary, up to now, Metro Toronto has been paying a private company thousands of dollars every year to sort material collected in the blue boxes. Now, some people say the solution to this is for Metro to build a sorting plant of its own. But now that solution seems to be running into some opposition on Metro Council.
The 6 municipalities that make up Metro Toronto collect 400 tons of material in blue recycling boxes every week. 1,200 tons of old newspapers are also collected. All of it ends up here to be sorted. The glass from the plastics from the tin cans. Metro now pays the Quebec Ontario Recycling Company $31 a ton to do the job. The price will likely go up to nearly $38 a ton next month. To save money, Metro wants to get into the sorting business and spend more than $3 million to turn this old incinerator plant into a high-tech, state-of-the-art sorting plant. The incinerator was shut down 2 years ago because it was spewing pollution into the air.
On yesterday.
Councillor Howard Moscow doesn't like the idea of an expensive sorting plant, and he wanted to see for himself.
Okay, now when does that company from Boston, that Boston company, take over? When their machinery is installed?
We have a few little minor things in here to clean up for them. When the contract is signed, that we will be giving them the building.
But Moscow says Metro wouldn't have to spend so much money if the city of Toronto sorted its own blue box material right at the curb.
What you're really saying is that Metropolitan Toronto pays essentially the cost of the separation that the city of Toronto should be doing and that the other municipalities are doing.
Like the other municipalities are doing, sure.
Right, okay.
But the city's Commissioner of Work says mixing the material together and sorting them later is the way to go. And besides, it saves taxpayers money.
In our case, when we started the program back in 1988, we didn't have to buy any new equipment. We use our existing packers and the existing resources, and we provide the Blue Box program on Wednesdays, and we use the other 4 days to provide the regular garbage pickup.
Well, nevertheless, Howard Moscow says tomorrow he will ask Metro Council to scrap the idea of making this sorting plant for $3 million, and he wants to use this money that's going to be saved by not spending this money to give the city of Toronto free garbage pickup trucks that are used specifically for recycling. Hillary?
All right, Hamlin, in the meantime, what is happening? I mean, in the absence of this sorting plant, what is happening to all the recyclable, unsorted Toronto trash?
Well, a lot of this stuff is just sitting there, Hillary. There's about 3,000 tons of it, and if indeed they should stop collecting the stuff right now, today, it would take about 2 years for them to completely sort what's now sitting there. But there's some other garbage news on the horizon, Hillary. Today, a group from Kirkland Lake, the Kirkland Lake District, says Northerners, they don't want Metro's garbage up north, and a deal was struck 2 weeks ago for Metro to ship thousands of tons of garbage up to an old abandoned mine in Kirkland Lake, and they say they just don't want it.
But today at Queen's Park, a community group and members of Pollution Probe say the deal should be stopped. The Temiskaming Anti-Garbage Coalition says it doesn't want Kirkland Lake used as a quick fix to Metro's garbage crisis.
We feel that, like every other community in Ontario, waste management is first and foremost the responsibility of a community, and they must look internally first for solutions.
In exchange for taking Metro's garbage, the Temiskaming area has been promised a recycling plant, plus royalties and other payments, totaling $382 million. But the coalition says Metro is just unloading its problems on them.
Well, the province will probably have the last word on this. This whole thing has to go through an environmental assessment. Now, the feeling here at Metro is that this thing could have very little political fallout for the NDP government because, after all, there is no NDP member up in Kirkland Lake. Hillary?
All right, Hamlin, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's both praise and outrage today for the NDP government's decision to kill a major highway extension in Hamilton. The government said yesterday it would not finance construction of the Red Hill Creek Valley Expressway. That has left politicians in Hamilton very bitter, but environmentalists are pleased. Lauren Madeline has more.
What are you working on right now?
Hamilton Alderman Don Ross is worried for workers whose jobs might be in jeopardy and for the economic health of Hamilton. After 18 months of preliminary construction and after the expenditure of millions of dollars, the NDP has rejected a Liberal pledge to finance work here on what was to have been the Red Hill Creek Valley Expressway.
It doesn't bode well for this community, in my opinion, economically, for ease of the transportation links and so on. Very, very bad.
And to those environmental concerns, you would say what?
Well, the environmental concerns are real, and we all understand that.
Ross is already trying to get alternate financing. For now, the extension east from Highway 403 has already started, Ross and project supporters wanted to link 403 with the QEW for reasons ranging from convenience to commerce. In anticipation of the link-up, businesses bought land to build along this stretch, a key attraction being easy access to major highways. But a coalition called Save the Valley challenged the new NDP government to live up to the party's campaign pledge to protect the environment. And in this case, despite a previously held environmental assessment that gave the project the go-ahead, the NDP cut off financing yesterday. Attorney Herman Turkstra represents the Save the Valley coalition.
Major projects are now going to be judged on their environmental impact as well as on their economic impact, and that's really important. It's a question of bringing the whole thing into balance.
Yesterday, the Minister of Transportation canceled the funding for the regional Red Hill Expressway, and he said it was a moral decision.
At Queen's Park this afternoon, interim Liberal leader Robert Nixon grilled Premier Bob Rae about the expressway.
On balance, we felt that the expressway through the Red Hill Creek was not warranted, that it did pose environmental problems, and that in choosing, we decided to simply make a choice on behalf of the environment in this particular case.
If a new financial plan is approved, it's expected to come in the form of a public bond issue. But that's a time-consuming process. And in the meantime, this is a case of millions of dollars having been spent on a road that, at least so far, goes nowhere. Lorne Madelon, CBC News, Hamilton.
Metro Police are investigating a big land deal in the city of York. The investigation was prompted by a Queen's Park report on the sale of parkland by the city to a condominium developer. The province says that mistakes were made by the city council. John Northcott has more.
Over there on that hillside. That's the only place anywhere near here that kids can go skiing and tobogganing and sleigh riding in the winter. And in the summer, this place is full of kids all the time.
Betty Vangenheim is one of a growing number of York residents concerned about the future of Fairbank Park. It's in the Dufferin-Eglinton area. The proposal has already been the subject of angry public meetings that have seen residents squaring off against the developer and the city.
In all, the plans call for 4 apartment towers with a total of 667 condominium units. Part of the development will be here on the north side of the park on a hill that's currently used by the community as a toboggan run. The rest of the development will go just to the north on the site that is now occupied by the Fairbank outdoor pool.
The city would use the $10 million received from the sale of the land to build a new community center. Municipal Affairs Minister David Cook told the provincial legislature yesterday that the community was not adequately consulted before a conditional sale of the land was allowed to go through. For the time being, however, Cook is content to hand over his report to the Metro Police Fraud Squad while the approval process continues with public meetings. If that doesn't work, Cook says he could move in and stop the development by declaring a provincial interest in the site. York City Council will meet in a special session to discuss the actions of Queen's Park. York's Mayor, Fergie Brown, says the minister won't be disappointed.
I think that the whole thing got turned around, and I think that the ongoing process and the process that's coming up in the next couple of months will certainly, be to the minister's exceed the minister's satisfaction.
But others say the minister could have gone further.
The process up till now has been flawed. By allowing it to go on, you're negating any concerns that you have shown by saying there is a problem, but we're not going to do anything about it. We will only move if there is a further problem.
If we proceed with the process, it may be months before we get the police investigation, and then we have to take it to the OMB. I feel that we should have the power to put a stop to it before that happens.
So while the Metro Police investigation continues and Queen's Park stands aside for the time being, a lot of people are going to be interested to see what the City of York Council does when it meets in special session tomorrow. John Northcott, CBC News, in the City of York.
Well, we've been having very strange weather for this time of the year. Let's go out to Bill Lawrence, who's standing in that balmy breeze outside. What's going on, Bill?
Well, Hillary, given a choice, I think you would like our kind of strange weather rather than the weather that we have now out in Western Canada. When I say Western, I also mean to the other side of the Rockies. We have a blizzard condition existing all the way from Pacific right over to Manitoba. Victoria tonight is expecting between 5 and 10 centimeters of snow in about 3 hours as they sit down to dinner and perhaps gather around the big teapot. Their temperature will be -5, and they in Victoria tonight are on the way down to -9 degrees. The wind chill factor out there at this moment is running at -30. That is balmy. compared to Calgary and Edmonton, where the wind chill factor about 5 minutes ago was minus 55 and minus 60 degrees Celsius. And you think this is different? Well, it is a bit different. We're on the mild side, and we've got some more rain in the picture. Let's have a look at first for Windsor and for London. Both these forecast areas, the same forecast for tonight. A little light snow and down to about -1. And for tomorrow, cloudy skies and temperatures Windsor to London not far from 4 degrees. Here in Toronto, a little light drizzle for the next couple of hours, and then cloudy skies, the temperature at 0. And for tomorrow, for Toronto and eastward, cloudy skies and not far from 2 degrees. We'll be back in a bit. We'll look at more of this chilling story of winter out in the west, and we'll also look at the first couple of days of winter here in southern Ontario. And Hillary, we'll do that later.
All right, Bill, thank you. It has been almost a year since the bloody overthrow of the Ceausescu regime in Romania. In the months that have passed, some of the youngest victims of that brutal regime have at last found love and comfort. Lynn Robson has the story of 3 Romanian orphans now looking forward to their first Merry Christmas.
Okay, put it right here.
This is the first time Scott Mueller has ever seen a Christmas tree, and the first time Manfred Mueller has had a son to help decorate one.
Bravo. Bravo.
Janet and Manfred Mueller went to Romania to adopt one child. They came back with 3. Gregory, 14 months, Scott, 3.5 years, and Christina, also 3.5.
Bravo.
Life in a poor orphanage has left its mark on these children. The toddlers are very small for their age, and they're at least a year behind in their motor and speaking skills.
Scotty, good boy? Good boy, all right.
The baby still rocks himself. It's a sign of the isolation he lived in before.
Didn't take to being touched or picked up. Didn't really know what the sensation was. So it took Janet a lot of time to try and get him to understand that being touched is quite normal. It's quite nice.
But the children have adapted quickly to life in a real home, and they're catching up to other kids their age.
Seeing what's happened, all it takes is a little bit of love and attention. And all the other children could be the same.
For this new instant family, it's shaping up to be a very special Christmas.
I'm still not quite sure where I am, but I'm happy. It's pretty obvious. So Christmas is going to be great.
I love you. Happy? Like happy.
Lynn Robson, CBC News, Montreal.
Coming up on CBC at 6, the European community says no to a meeting with Iraq's foreign minister.
We are all agreed that we must not allow his manipulations to divert us from full and complete implementation of the Security Council resolutions.
If your Christmas holiday calls for more sand than snow, check out Sears Island Palm and Black Sand Beachwear for men at 30% off. Just about everyone is into hot fashions from Sears. Your money's worth and more.
Something's happening. There's a new attitude, a new excitement on the streets of downtown Windsor, and it's waiting for your rediscovery. You can sense it from the friendly smiles. You can feel it with every stride, and you can see it in every display. The merchants of downtown Windsor are stocked up and ready with everything you want this Christmas, and they welcome you to Windsor's distinctive shopping experience. Be a part of it. Downtown Windsor, simply spectacular.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, I like Christmas. Just not all the money people spend on gifts. So this year I've seen to it that gifts are priced so low, even I'd buy them.
Ebenezer.
Scrooge-approved prices. Only at Canadian Tire.
Scrooge-approved prices.
It's my little gift to everyone.
What a nice gift, Ebenezer.
Yes, doesn't cost me a cent.
Canadian Tire lets you give like Santa and save like Scrooge.
Beef. Beef. So.
Beef.
So.
Perfect.
So-and-so beef.
Today's beef is on average 50% leaner and 21% lower in cholesterol than 15 years ago. So what's your beef?
Beef.
Be sure and watch Codco this week.
We were horrified, and at the same time tickled.
She's a little bit delicate, right? I'm going to heaven.
Catch Codco Thursdays on CBC television.
Always wanted the look and feel of European textiles but thought it too expensive? John's Imports regularly and in great volume imports fabrics from Italy and other parts of the world. Great savings on bedspreads, all sizes, many designs. Separate and coordinated bathroom towels and robes. Beautifully embroidered imported cotton lace tablecloths. Intimate wear in comfortable cotton. For drapery material, buy where designers and drapery makers buy. Retail or wholesale, John's Imports, 673 Erie East.
The cold has come, so soon they'll come to this place. Chase a puck, maybe chase a dream. But mostly, they'll come just to play. Every kid needs to play. To be a kid, Easter Seals delivers.
This season, Molson Canadian and Canadian Light will donate a portion of sales, $300,000, to Easter Seals.
If you're out this season, please take care.
The countdown to war in the Gulf continues. In Iraq, thousands more reservists reported to their army units today. Most of those reservists served during Iraq's 8-year war with Iran. And the anti-Iraq alliance is also laying the groundwork for war. Saudi Arabia has canceled all of its exports of jet fuel and diesel oil. The fuel and oil will now be stockpiled for use by the multinational war machine in the Gulf. And Egypt is also stepping up its war effort. Another Egyptian division is on its way to the Saudi desert. Keith Miller of NBC News reports.
The Arab Islamic forces are dug in along the front line, some units less than 30 miles from Kuwait. Dropping in on the Egyptian forces, the commander of Arab Islamic forces, Lieutenant General Khalid bin Sultan, received a show that these soldiers mean business. Elements of the Egyptian Third Army simulated an attack on an enemy column. U.S. A-10 anti-tank aircraft were called in as support. This is the kind of coordination that will be essential if the forces allied against Iraq are to fight cohesively. Military analysts have questioned the commitment from nations like Syria and Morocco. But General Khalid insists the Arab Islamic alliance is united.
Extremely firm and secure. I'm not only confident, I am extremely confident about it.
What about the question of which countries would go into battle if needed?
I think we are all here to carry on whatever order is given by our Supreme Commander.
Egyptian commandos put on a show of battle, even without weapons. Keith Miller, NBC News, Saudi Arabia.
In the meantime, the European Community foreign ministers have decided not to meet Iraq's foreign minister. The ministers had planned to discuss the Gulf crisis with Tariq Aziz this week, but they now say that Aziz must first meet with the U.S. President George Bush in Washington. Brian Hanrahan of the BBC reports from Brussels.
The European decision wasn't reached easily. Some of the countries, led by Italy, wanted to set up a meeting with Iraq. The Germans said they wanted both an American and a European meeting to take place. But the Dutch and the British blocked any change in the agreed position, that Tariq Aziz would only be welcome in Europe if he'd first been to Washington.
We all realize that we mustn't give the impression that there is a difference in position between the United States and Europe, that we have a unified position which in fact demands unconditional withdrawal from Kuwait, for which there is no peaceful alternative. And on the other hand, that in case this withdrawal materializes unconditionally and total, that then there need not be any fear in Iraq for hostilities.
Earlier, at a NATO meeting, most of the same ministers had heard America's James Baker warn them of the tricks that Saddam Hussein might play if they got drawn into talks with him.
All of the allies are agreed that Saddam Hussein may well attempt further diplomatic sleights of hand in the days ahead. We are all agreed that we must not allow his manipulations to divert us from full and complete implementation of the Security Council resolutions. A partial withdrawal would reward aggression, and we think it is very important that we not do that. We made that mistake in the 30s, and we ought not to make it in the 90s.
Publicly, Mr. Baker's been saying that a European meeting wouldn't be a problem, so long as it sent the right signals to Baghdad. But there'll be American relief tonight that the danger of the wrong message getting through to Iraq has been diminished. Brian Hanrahan, BBC News, Brussels.
And as the threat of a Gulf War continues to grow, the Canadian Armed Forces are also getting ready for action. Grim and realistic war exercises are being intensified, especially at sea. The CBC's Ed Watson has more from the RMCS Huron.
Shoot the first one. Alarm gun air bearing. Green 90. Open fire.
The missiles won't leave their rails. The gun may swivel, but it won't fire. It's not the machinery that's being tested. It's the 300-man crew of the Huron.
Every time he designates, you look at the weapon systems, both launchers and the gun, and you make sure they're going where they're supposed to. Make sure
Lieutenant Commander Bill Riggs is part of a special team putting Huron through war games. For 10 days, 24 hours a day, the crew has to battle simulated air attacks, fires and mines, and real fatigue. The Huron's air supply can be sealed off from outside gas attacks, but until her air supply is certified clean, gas masks are worn, sentries posted at the door. No one's allowed outside. The exercises are taken very seriously. This sentry was ready to disobey a direct order from an officer who wanted to open a door.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I'm the XO.
Eventually, the door was open.
Keep it going. You're doing great, guys.
The war game script called for a poison gas attack outside. Resupply from the ship provider was done in gas masks and rubber suits. The suits are hot on a December day on the west coast. In the Persian Gulf heat, sailors dressed like this would last just minutes on deck. With one exercise over, crewmen have a short time to catch their breath, but another scenario could begin any minute. Two simulated missile hits caused fires to rage within Huron. Smoke bombs add a realistic effect. Some crewmen fake injuries. In the back of everyone's mind, the fact they will soon be in the Persian Gulf. The fact that real missile hits can sink a ship, and that real casualties don't put their boots on and walk away. Ed Watson, CBC News, aboard HMCS Huron.
In the United States today, at least 7 people were killed in a bus accident in Wyoming. The Greyhound bus was traveling from Salt Lake City to Chicago when it collided with 2 tractor trailers on an icy stretch of highway. All of those killed were passengers on the bus. 16 other holiday travelers were injured, including several babies. The strong winds made rescue efforts difficult. Emergency helicopters couldn't land near the crash site, and all of the injured had to be transported to hospital over land. Still to come on CBC at 6, Young People's Theatre cast the role of Tiny Tim to a very special young actor. Beth Harrington explains. Beth?
That's right, Hillary. The true meaning and spirit of Christmas can be found at the Young People's Theatre this year. Jason Caverly stars as Tiny Tim in The Christmas Carol. But there is more to Jason than meets the eye, and we'll meet him next in entertainment.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, I like Christmas. Just not all the money people spend on gifts. So this year I've seen to it that gifts are priced so low, even I'd buy them.
Ebenezer.
Scrooge-approved prices. Only at Canadian Tire.
Scrooge-approved prices?
It's my little gift to everyone.
What a nice gift, Ebenezer.
Yes, doesn't cost me a cent.
Canadian Tire lets you give like Santa and save like Scrooge.
Brisbois Christian Bookstore and Gift Shop is proudly keeping Christ in Christmas again this holiday season with Fontanini nativity scenes. Enter a free draw for this charming set. And sterling silver Italian-made rosaries regularly $49.95, now $29.95. And with beautifully handcrafted Christmas villages, precious moments collectibles, and more. Books, cards, videos, music, Bibles. It's all at Brisbois Christian Bookstore.
From our family to your family,
Blessed holidays.
I don't want to grow up, don't want to grow up. I don't want to grow up, don't want to grow up. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with.
From Grand Toys, the loyal friend and protector, Pooch Patrol, $27.87 each. And Boys and Girls Little Riders, $34.99 each at Toys R Us.
Putting off buying that one piece of furniture you really need?
How's the book, hon?
Fine.
Announcing Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event.
Now Buster gets.
Everything you need for your home for no money down, no interest, and no payment till May 1991.
I'll get it.
Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event. Now what are you waiting for?
Have you got any fives? 4 and fish.
When I look like this, my guys challenge me to lose 20 pounds.
Me, Tommy Lasorda, the guy who loves to eat.
Well, I lost 30 pounds in 3 months with the Ultra Slim Fast weight loss plan. It was easy. I had a delicious shake for breakfast, one for lunch, and then a wholesome dinner. And I didn't feel hungry. The pounds dropped off. Isn't that great?
You know, this is the first time I ever lost anything and felt good about it.
Ultra Slim Fast. Give us a week, we'll help you lose weight.
It's not for the faint of heart.
He was shouting about murders, hanging.
Gritty, real-life hospital drama.
And we got nothing to go on. No history at all.
You're about to enter the emergency room.
Raised your temple, slight concussion.
A crisis around every corner.
We didn't invite you to our party. I despise hospitals.
I thought I was going to die.
The emergency room. Thursdays at 7:30 on CBC television.
CBC and you.
I'm Beth Harrington. Tiny Tim in Charles Dickens' classic A Christmas Carol is the embodiment of any child who suffers from a physical disability. But for a young Toronto actor with a real disability, this role provides a chance to break down some old barriers. Stu Patterson has more.
This musical Christmas Carol has all the poignant ingredients you'd expect. Here's Scrooge agonizing through Christmases past, present, future. The part of Tiny Tim is made more realistic. Tim is played by 13-year-old Jason Caverly, who suffers from spina bifida. He's paralyzed from the knees down, but his performance touches the audience deeply.
A pocket-sized baby and somewhere around and home.
This is Jason's first professional stage effort. Now he's in the big leagues, sharing a warm-up with seasoned veterans.
Thank you for friends and neighbors.
Jason says he loves being out here, loves the chance to perform, says his dream is that he'll be an example for others.
And the chance to live.
Some people I know have dreams of acting, but they're disabled, so they don't really think that they can do it. So I hope that if people that know me, see me on stage that have a disability like me, will say, hey, if you can do that, I can do that.
Do you view all this with mixed emotions?
Of course we do. We don't want to have pity for him. We want them to see him as an individual, a person who has skills, abilities, weaknesses, and still be trying to live life to the best of his potential.
It isn't the 2 shows a day that worries Jason. He says the hardest part is keeping up with his schoolwork. A Christmas Carol until the 30th at Young People's Theatre.
What a gorgeous little kid. Well, artists have a special creative imagination and when put to the task can come up with some pretty unusual items. At Harbourfront, some Toronto artists have a unique toy exhibit on, and they're toys that may delight and even mystify the viewer.
Swing.
Now I know
know I'm dreaming.
We love things that make people smile, that make them happy, that make them play. To say that anything that an artist produced is art, I think is a fallacy. I mean, there are lots of things that artists do that aren't art. But there is an aesthetic that guides it, that makes it something special, that has that quality of singing, of being beautiful in some way, of being special, of being beyond the ordinary. It's wonderful to see our audience grow. You know, lots of people come back who've seen it last year and say, oh, this is better than last year's show, or where's the piece that was there, or we're able to point out artists, in fact, who had work in last year, and this year's work is different. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to see that grow as well. So we really hope to see it continue for a long time.
Gorgeous stuff down at Harbourfront. And that's it in entertainment. And now here's a look at some of the things happening around tonight.
Coming up on CBC at 6, a Quebec armory is raided. Thieves kill a guard and take 100 weapons, including machine guns.
Colio Wines of Canada are pleased to present the perfect gift for this holiday season. Colio gift packs. Choose one of ours or create your own. Available at Colio retail stores. Colio Wines, from our family to yours. Happy holidays.
I don't want to grow up, don't want to grow up. I don't want to grow up, don't want to grow up. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with.
From Irwin, we have the Spytech walkie-talkies, $34.78, battery sold separately. And the Power Wheels battery-operated Safari Jeep with its own battery and charger, $389.99 or $369.99 after $20 rebate.
Starting Wednesday, December 19th, and for the remainder of the week, only one store wraps it up right with special brand name savings. Zellers has 40% off all their brand name bras. Famous names like Wonder Bra, Warner's, Daisy Fresh, Playtex, and Vogue. Brand name bras at 40% off, and you get free valuable Club Z points too. Zellers is the store with a spirit of savings.
Zellers wraps it up right, where the lowest price is the law.
The first time that I saw him, I knew right from the start.
This holiday season, McDonald's has a little something for someone special.
How do I show I like him?
McDonald's gift certificates.
Oh, I think that I know how.
A book of 5 for $5 with 50 cents from each book going to Ronald McDonald Children's Charities to help children in need all across Canada. With McDonald's gift certificates, you can help a charity that helps children.
I knew he always liked me.
If your car or light truck has an exhausted exhaust system, your Essex County GM dealer's service special offers the solution. Included is a new muffler, front pipe, tailpipe, clamps, labor, and a lifetime muffler warranty. Sample price only $139.95. Another Essex County GM dealer's service special featuring genuine GM parts, the expert choice.
See Dan Kane, Chevrolet's Cadillac Windsor. Jack Giese, Pontiac Buick GMC Leamington. And Ron Hodgins, Chevrolet's Kingsville.
Colio Wines of Canada are pleased to present the perfect gift for this holiday season. Colio gift packs. Choose one of ours or create your own. Available at Colio retail stores. Colio Wines, from our family to yours. Happy holidays.
Automatic rifles were stolen early this morning from a Canadian Forces armory in Saint-Jérôme, Quebec. A security guard was killed during the robbery. Stephen Langford reports.
There is a vault inside the Royal 22nd Regiment's armory in Saint-Jérôme, a vault where the Army keeps a number of high-powered weapons. That vault became a target for someone early this morning, and a 67-year-old night watchman inside became the victim.
They're going to perform the autopsy tomorrow, but he's got a plastic bag over his head.
Somehow the thieves got inside. Police will only say there was no sign of any forced entry. Some people are saying the suspects may have had a key.
The suspects here were not only determined, they knew what they were doing. In order to pull off their heist, they got an Army Jeep at the back of this place, got the keys, wheeled it around to the front here, opened up these front doors, backed in the Jeep, and got all the weapons they were looking for.
The way that they maneuvered to get inside there, you seem to know a little bit. Anyway, their way around, or they seem to know exactly where they were going.
Authorities say they made off with 20 C7 automatic rifles, just like the ones we saw in Oka this summer. The getaway Jeep was found late this morning on an isolated back road several miles away. Police won't say if they have any suspects, but admit that the idea of someone running around with all those automatic weapons has put enormous pressure on detectives to crack the case. Across town at the local Legion Hall, they all knew the victim, a veteran, a friend. I was here with Armand Saturday night, he says. He was telling me about going to Florida next month. His friends say he'd recently retired, heart problems. But he returned to his job as night watchman at the Armory, they say, because he didn't like sitting around, and he was proud to wear a uniform. Stephen Langford, CBC News, St. Jerome.
A handful of local farmers have successfully delayed plans by Windsor to expand its landfill sites. Windsor will be forced to wait at least a year before it can go ahead, and it'll cost the city more than $1 million a month. Brian Worrell has the story.
Like many communities, the Windsor area is in a garbage crunch. Existing landfills will be full up by the end of 1992. After years of studying potential landfill sites and years of public debate and protest, the Essex-Windsor Waste Management Committee arrived at a plan to expand 2 existing landfills, one in Maidstone Township just outside Windsor and one farther away in Colchester North. To expand the 2 landfill sites, the Waste Management Committee must test the soil on nearby farms. And that's where the fight is centered now. Several landowners have refused to let the testers on their property. This farm beside the Colchester North landfill is one of those properties. Felix Veit-Beansel says he believes lime-treated sewage sludge from the landfill may get into his crops.
The sewage sludge, you get a heavy rainfall like we have here, it will go down the slope and right into the municipal ditch system. And this is no way to run the landfill.
Veit-Beansel and 2 or 3 other farmers won't cooperate with the landfill committee.
Any delays are going to be very costly to the people of Essex County and the city of Windsor. If we have to export garbage, we're looking at $1 million a month.
Carl Gibb, the chairman of the Waste Committee, says the opposition could delay expansion by about a year. That would cost the taxpayer about $12 million extra dollars. The city of Windsor has given him permission to expropriate strips of land where soil can be tested. Tomorrow, he'll ask Essex County to back the move as well. But Felix Veit-Beansel isn't worried about the cost to the taxpayer, especially since most of those taxpayers live in Windsor.
They don't live here. Why don't put a dump right into Windsor, where all the taxpayers see the dump every day, and then they will start to reduce their garbage.
Veit-Beansel has already hired a well-known lawyer and says he's ready for the legal battle. Brian Worrell, CBC News, near Windsor.
Winter doesn't officially come to Canada until Friday, here in southern Ontario at 10:07 in the evening. Tell that to British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. They have winter with a vengeance tonight. Blizzard conditions to the east of the Rockies. And yes, indeed, as you saw, as we looked across the country, it is snowing in Vancouver at the present time. Victoria expected between 5 and 10 centimeters of snow tonight. The wind chill factor right now at Victoria, -30. And the overnight lows across much of Alberta and Saskatchewan down to -35. That's not counting the wind. Factor in the wind, and their wind chill factor will take it to about -60. Let's have a look at our systems map. Here's the way it shapes up. The low from the Peace River Valley last night is now just moving into the Dakotas, and around that we have this Arctic blast out of the northwest, gusting up to 100 kilometers an hour, and that is now flooding across the prairies and down into the western half of the United States. A hard freeze expected tonight in parts of northern California and northern Nevada. Now, the extremities of this, we can follow the front. We pick it up off the Pacific coast. There's the boundary of the cold air into the center of low itself, sagging deep into the heartland of the United States and cutting just to the north of the lower lakes region. We expect this cold mass to slide to the west of us. But the top part of this front, the one that's now cutting just through the Sioux and up around Moosonee, may just tip over enough that we in the Toronto and eastern areas may get into that chilly blast, but not deep enough that it will affect our temperatures that much, but just enough that we'll know we are cool for this time of year. Let's have a look across the country today. Here in Ontario, in the Ottawa Valley, cloudy skies, rain throughout the day, temperatures not far from the freezing point. Around Sudbury this afternoon, it was cloudy and -7. They're just moving into that cool sector. North Bay, cloudy and -3 degrees. Light snow throughout Timmins region today. The high -18. The overnight low in Timmins -29 degrees. Partly cloudy in Thunder Bay. Their high -13. They're on their way to -18 tonight. A nice sunny day through Kenora and Lake of the Woods area. The high this afternoon -17. If you like your weather crisp, overnight there at Kenora, it'll be -28. Meanwhile, in the Banana Belt across the south today, for the most part, periods of drizzle. Temperatures not far from 2 degrees, a bit warmer. Toronto not far from 4. The forecast then for tonight for Windsor and London, light snow, overnight low at -1, cloudy tomorrow and 4 degrees. For Toronto, periods of drizzle for the next hour or so, the overnight low near 0, the high for tomorrow at 2 degrees. The extended forecast for Thursday, cloudy skies, the high of 2, a bit higher in London and Windsor up to 5 degrees, a cloudy day on Friday, 2 degrees, and for Saturday, a mixture of rain and snow, an 80% probability, and a high not far from 2 degrees. Out where the buffalo roam. Boy, you need to cuddle up with a buffalo tonight to stay warm out there.
I bet you would. Thank you, Bill. This is CBC at 6. Coming up, lots of sports with Bruce Dobigan.
That's right, Hillary. The postman has rung twice for Razor Ruddock. He'll get his long-awaited shot at Mike Tyson in March.
If your Christmas holiday calls for more sand than snow, check out Sears Island Palm and Black Sand Beachwear for men at 30% off. Just about everyone is into hot fashions from Sears. Your money's worth and more.
Starting Wednesday, December 19th, and for the remainder of the week, only one store wraps ladies up right for the night with special savings. Zellers has 1/3 off a wide selection of fall and winter ladies' lounge and sleepwear, robes to cuddle up in, pajamas to be cozy in, and teddies and peignoir sets to dream the night away in. At the one store that wraps it up right with free valuable Club Z points, Zellers.
Zellers wraps it up right, where the lowest price is the law.
The baby in this picture is going to have a very special year. A year of first steps, first words, first birthday. And none of these firsts will ever happen again. Now, if you were this baby's parents, which film would you choose? No other film in the world gives you purer, richer colors than Kodacolor Gold film. Aren't your pictures worth gold?
Windsor people really like hockey, and they see our ads on the hockey games, and we get a real good response from hockey games, from the TV ads.
Putting off buying that one piece of furniture you really need?
How's the book, hon? Fine.
Announcing Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event.
Stop. Now, Buster, get.
Everything you need for your home for no money down, no interest, and no payment till May 1991.
I'll get it.
Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event. Now what are you waiting for?
Have you got any fives? Go and fish.
Christmas is a wonderfully special time of year. A time you can be with family and friends and enjoy the best of the season. And Christmas is a time when each Shoppers Drug Mart is filled with special savings on everything you need to make your holidays festive, healthy, and affordable.
Okay, plug them in. Hey,
There's only room for one star on this tree.
Starting Wednesday, December 19th, and for the remainder of the week, only one store wraps it up right with special brand name savings. Zellers has 40% off all their brand name bras. Famous names like Wonder Bra, Warner's, Daisy Fresh, Playtex, and Vogue. Brand name bras at 40% off, and you get free valuable Club Z points too. Zellers is the store with a spirit of savings.
Zellers wraps it up right, where the lowest price is the law.
And welcome back. Well, you know, there once was a book about boxing, a good book, in fact, called The Only Thing Square Was the Ring. It might have been about the old matchmaker himself, Don King, the man with the nightmare hair. For King, of course, the straightest distance between 2 points has always been a crooked line. So today's announcement of a March 18th bout between Razor Ruddock and Mike Tyson has to be greeted with a little bit of skepticism. After all, it was King and his men who pulled Tyson out of a previous match with Ruddock in Edmonton when it looked like Tyson might actually lose the fight and Ruddock carry off his crown, which eventually happened with Buster Douglas. So, of course, the Razor may have to take a table leg into the ring with him in Las Vegas in March if he expects a win over Tyson. And today they started the hype for the fight.
March 18th, we're going to have Mike Tyson and the #2 contender, which is the 1 and 2 fighting, is Razor Ruddock in a tremendous card. Also, allow me to introduce this young man, the dynamic, the inimitable, mighty Mike Tyson. Come on, Mike, let's say hello to your fans. We love you, and we all love you. I'm just good.
Personally, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm happy to just be a member of Showtime and to come to Mirage and fight, you know what I mean, under the great conditions that there are now. And I'm just looking forward, and I'm confident for the fight. And I know after the fight, I'm going to be the winner.
Mike, over here.
This is better than November the 18th because he's in America making the announcement that this fight is going to happen in America. So
everybody know what Mike is going to do. He's going to knock out Razor Ruddock. Ain't no question about that. And Mirage is going to be right there smiling, going to the bank in June.
If they could just learn to publicize the sport, it might get going. I don't know. Just a wild guess. Mike Foligno expected to be in uniform tonight for the Maple Leafs. His first game for Toronto after being traded from Buffalo yesterday in exchange for Lou Franceschetti and, of course, Brian Kern, the defenseman. Leafs are in New York tonight to face the Islanders out on Long Island. No local TV of this one. As you can see, the Islanders are not much better than the Leafs. They're in that massive contest for last place and rights to Eric Lindros at the end of the season. The Islanders beat the Leafs in their only other meeting this year. Now, for all you Red Wing fans down in Windsor, the Red Wings are in action tonight over at Joe Louis Arena. If you're going to the game, you better get in your car now and get over there in a hurry. Beat the tunnel. Anyhow, there you go. Philadelphia facing the Red Wings. Both teams having above 500 seasons among the quality teams this year. And the Wings, of course, beat Philadelphia at the Spectrum last Saturday, 3-1. Now, the Edmonton Oilers are a scintillating 1-10 without Mark Messier in their lineup. And with Messier on the limp once again, Edmonton coach John Muckler is a little bit upset. So as we hear in this report from Edmonton, he put his charges through a rather grueling workout yesterday in preparation for tonight's game with Los Angeles.
The air was blue as John Muckler left the ice following practice as he challenged his players to improve their play against the Kings Tuesday night, even with intimidation. Muckler's upset that the Oilers have allowed 20 goals in 3 games against Gretzky and company this season.
I know they're a good offensive hockey club. We can play against Calgary and hold Calgary to 1 and 2 and 3 goals. There's no reason why we can't do the same to LA.
He's even more upset with the treatment the Oilers took Saturday. And to paraphrase the U.S. Commander-in-Chief, the Oilers field general wants to draw a line on the ice against the Kings.
I didn't like what Robitaille did to Simpson. I mean, I thought he took another cheap shot. That's 2 cheap shots he's taken in 2 games. And I don't know if that's the way they're going to play the game. I don't know why we don't start doing the same thing. Let's start it. Let's get it over with.
If anything can cheer Muckler up besides a win over the Kings, it's the return of his top gun to the lineup.
Yeah, I got the brace fitted. It wasn't quite fitting exactly the way it should, so getting it redone today, and hopefully we'll be ready for tomorrow and at least give it a chance. If it doesn't fit exactly tomorrow, I'll still try to play with what I've been wearing from before, I think.
It may be the time for peace and goodwill towards man, but if John Muckler has his way, that won't start until after the Oilers deal with the Kings.
That was a cheap shot, all right. Finland scored 4 quick goals yesterday in the third period to knock off Canada to give them their first loss at the Izvestia tournament. And we have some of the highlights from Moscow yesterday as we go to the tape. Canadians won their first game, of course, against Czechoslovakia. They controlled the early action in this one. Ken Priestley opens the scoring at 8:23 mark of the first period, but the momentum changed soon after that for the Canadian team. We're represented, of course, by our national team. 5 minutes and 24 seconds later, the crowd of 4,000 saw Finland tie it up on a goal by Timo Selänne. That made it 1-1, a score that stood up through the opening period. The Finns had a power play early in the second period, and they scored their second goal. Hannu Järvenpää used to play in the NHL for a short, had a cup of coffee over there. Well, he gets it. A goal at the 4:47 mark puts them up 2-1, the Finns. And then 16 minutes and 42 seconds into that period, the Finns will make it 3-1. Canada, a nice chance in here, but then the Finns break away on a 2-on-1. A nice pass sets up Arto Ruutunen. He makes it 3-1. The Finns go on to defeat Canada in this one by a score of 7-3. We are 1-1 now at that tournament. Well, the Hamilton Tiger Cats ended the speculation today by naming their interim head coach, David Beckman, to the job full-time for 1991. Dave Beckman replaced Al Bruno as head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats with 6 games left on the schedule. The Ticats went just 2-4 under Beckman this season, missing the playoffs. Still, Hamilton management felt the Cats' former director of player personnel deserved a full shot at the job in 1991.
Dave has the dedication to football in general, and to the CFL, in particular, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He has a great enthusiasm and determination to win.
I certainly have a much better feeling today taking over than I did some weeks ago. Things were quite hectic at that time, and certainly not under the greatest conditions, but that's not true now. I think that we're headed in the right direction, and certainly, hopefully, I can keep steering it in that direction.
And good news for our friends down in Buffalo. They're one of 6 cities now left on the final list for a National League Baseball expansion franchise. The other cities, Denver, Miami, Orlando, St. Petersburg, and Tampa in Florida, and Washington, D.C. And, of course, I think Buffalo better hope that Hamilton doesn't have a veto over a National League Baseball franchise. Some bad news for the Buffalo fans. Jim Kelly will be out 3 weeks. He, of course, hurt his knee in the game on Saturday against the New York Giants. And it's back to you, Hillary, over on Mutual Street.
All right, Bruce, thank you. Updating tonight's top story, the Ontario government is planning a major expansion of the pay equity law. Labour Minister Bob McKenzie says 420,000 more working women will be covered under the Act. He also says the terms of the legislation will be expanded to provide more ways to make job comparisons. The changes are scheduled to take effect in the spring. And that is CBC at 6 for Tuesday, December the 18th. Thank you for watching. I'm Hillary Brown. Have a good evening. Good night.